Now, since my suspension in her case in 1997, I was given a 2-year suspension. During the suspension, the reinstatement process required me to admit to wrongdoing and that it was my fault, etc., so forth. Now, if I admit to having this suspension being justified, then my client, I'm really testifying against my client in violation of the ethics and the code of professional responsibility. So for over 10 years, and again, I have 6 children, people know me from Babylon, I'm started big-time basketball at Iona College, and I've been giving the credit with that. We were 29-5, beat Louisville, etc., so forth. People have seen my career. Newsday followed my career, though they're not following this story. And so I've really basically been ruined in terms of economically being deprived a livelihood in supporting my wife and children because I took an oath to defend the constitutional rights of my clients, and I've done so. Now, what's interesting with this is that the New York State Commission, this report was authorized by, again, Mario Cuomo. This came out in 1991. The 5-volume work is historic. Right now, President Obama, through Jim Webb, the senator from Virginia, is now starting to have a research done nationally with respect to the criminal justice system and trying to get some solutions. New York, through Mario Cuomo, has that report, has that been sitting on the shelf now since 1991, but they've done nothing. In this, it tells you, for instance, that New York State, again, this is on page 7, growing up watching the racism, is lamenting about its apartheid-like system of justice. It says that there's 2 standards of justice. It also goes on and says that the lack of opportunity for minorities to practice law in the area is stunning. The notion that there's anything needed other than opportunity to succeed, it sickens me. It says, I also believe that the profession is more likely to initiate disciplinary actions against minority attorneys who represent unpopular clients and with attorneys if the attorney was right. That's on page 89 in the executive summary. Page 90, black attorneys are more likely to be both challenged and charged. Minority attorneys receive disproportionate sanctions as compared to non-minority attorneys for similar or for the same conduct.
Now, let me just
Can I just
interject here.
say one thing here? In a courtroom in Suffolk County, I'm a 4th-generation Babylonian in Suffolk County. My father was all county, etc., playing basketball as well. I was told, Mr. Vickers, don't you get it, don't you get it? We're not going to allow you to practice law out here, but you look like you have broad shoulders. Why don't you see if you can't get a job lifting boxes at Pathmark? I hear they're hiring. Why don't you go today? I have now been told that since I've stood on the Constitution and the law, I've now been told after they changed the form, after 10 years of denying me the right to practice, so now they've changed the form where I don't have to testify against Sharon Thomas. Now, for the first time in the history of the state of New York, I am being required to go in and sign into a 350-bed psychiatric hospital for the criminally insane, in order to practice law again. So I have to give up my freedom, be tested, and if they find that I'm fine, the person that they say I must see, then I can go out. Once you sign in, you are a prisoner. You can't leave.
Now, let me just say this, Mr. Vickers.
Yes, sir.
Because you went a little further than I want you to go, just
Yes.
I want you to say that after I say this.
Okay.
Okay? And what I want to say to our viewers is that what he just outlined to you from that New York State report is a systematic pattern of legal discrimination in the criminal justice system that speaks to the criminal injustices that minorities face on a perpetual and continual basis throughout the state, and if this pattern holds true throughout the country. So I want my viewers to understand, if you have any stories of criminal injustice, call us at the African American Media Network. Let us know what's going on so we can begin to continue to bring this to the forefront. We had something that happened in Freeport where this young man, Franz Bayer, was shot by the Freeport police, and we, the African American Media Network, were there at the trial of these police officers, and we saw them commit perjury on the witness stand, and the jury still convicted Franz Bayer and sentenced him to 26 years in jail. And he was wounded with this police shooting him, and he's currently permanently paralyzed. Mr. Vickers, continue with your horror story, please.
Now, in 1990, there were only 3 attorneys of African ancestry that practiced law. Myself, former Assistant District Attorney in Suffolk County, Ed Howlett, former 20-year New York City police officer, and Carlos Cruz, also a former Suffolk County Assistant
Now,
District
you were a
Attorney.
former district.
I was a former Suffolk
assistant-
County Assistant District Attorney.
Okay.
I worked for IBM in sales as a professional. I was a tax accountant for Arthur Anderson of the Big 8. I was a stockbroker for Kidder Peabody. I went to law school at night, came out here, married Essence Magazine model who worked directly for Susan Taylor, had 6 children, all by the same woman, and started my law practice. So when I left the district attorney's office, and I was given a warning, and now it's a warning, but they told me, look, go back to New York City. This was from District Attorney Cattison. And I said, no, everyone knows me in Long Island, I'll do just fine. Well, what happened then is that they called me, my former boss, and said, look, we're having an after-work party, we want to introduce you to somebody. We want you to introduce you to the new players. Well, I went to that after work, and then after I left, went home, no event. Then I came back, they called and said that somebody that worked for Suffolk County was saying that on a dance floor, I hit her breast, and then they charged me with sex abuse, father, etc. And now, they sent the top prosecutor of the homicide squad to prosecute me, Dennis Dillon did. Well, that guy's name is Littman. Well, the prosecutor, that same prosecutor, tried to sexually pay for a 17-year-old girl to have sex with him as he was an ADA. They caught the buy money. They had him on tape. No charges by Dennis Dillon against this white attorney. He went on to practice law. The judge that you remember right here, this judge stabbed his wife. She was in surgery, almost died. No suspension of his law license. These are the standards. He was also able to collect $282,000 of salary, and that was Judge Paul Kautner. We also know the case where, again, another Dennis Dillon friend, Joe Carroll, sold almost $900,000 from his clients. No prosecution, no arrest. This attorney, what was his name?
Posner.
This attorney Posner, he's stolen 15 houses from African Americans in Mount Vernon. He's now stealing her house, and he's not even thinking of being arrested. And yet, I had more prosecutors than mass murderers Colin Ferguson and Joe Rifkin combined. I am still not being allowed to practice law, and therefore what I've done, and what we don't know, is that Governor Paterson has the authority upon the loss of confidence to remove the judges. That comes right out of the New York State Constitution. So he can remove these judges for denying me my 13th Amendment rights. How am I supposed to give up my freedom to go to be tested? And by the way, I took a test from a renowned New York City psychiatrist. I'm fine, thank you. But I'm not allowed to practice unless I put my body in harm's way to be either harmed, etc., another Tuskegee experiment. So I'm not inclined to do that. Now that's kept me from working for the last 6 years. And so even though I went to law school, went to school under Iona College, worked at some of the best companies in America, I'm still being told I should go get a job lifting boxes at Pathmark with people who have the same level of knowledge and training that I have. It's an outrage. I've asked the Justice Department to come in. They have come in. I've told about the police, and they're here right now. Now, I have asked for reparations and or compensated emancipation. What a lot of people don't know is that Abraham Lincoln did issue that order. The Senate and Congress did pass that order, but that money has never been distributed. And so as a Moore, I have asked for that money. And again, Ronald Reagan gave the Japanese who were interned in World War II, he gave them reparation. The Vickers family should be given reparations, as well as my client being able to get out of prison. This is on the doorstep of Governor Paterson. It is time for him to step up, and he's been so nice to every other group. And it seems to me that minority politicians, even though we back them, and even when we vote them, at times when it comes time for them to do something for our community, they feel afraid that they'll be saying it's reverse discrimination. it shouldn't be.
There you have it, folks. This has been today's program, Brainchild Diaspora, exploring the criminal injustices of the criminal justice system. I want you to get on the phone, call us, call Governor Patterson's office, inquire about the injustices that are being perpetrated in Westchester County, in Suffolk County, and in Nassau County. We have demonstrated as viewers that we can spend political capital by putting people in office. Now we must benefit from our political capital and get the injustices that are being perpetrated by our people, by the criminal justice system, eradicated once and for all. I'm Makakuvu Ali El Bey, otherwise known as Makakuvu the Moor, and this is the African American Media Network, Brainchild Diaspora. And remember, folks, if you're not watching the African American Media Network, your television is just not on.